What's up guys, Hownish here, and today we've got some Destiny 2 new stuff to talk about. So of course the Warmind DLC that was revealed or kind of teased yesterday, we have a few more bits of information about that. On top of this we have some information about power level and how that's going to change going into Season 3 with the second DLC. We've got other roadmap updates, the return of Iron Banner coming next week, which I'll talk about in a moment, conversation about reprised exotics, and some other feedback from Bungie, so let's get into it. So first up, of course, Bungie announced the Warmind DLC, something we've been waiting for quite some time, not in the form of a trailer, which is quite unusual. So they gave us this image on the blog. Of course, Warmind actually launches on the 8th of May, and Bungie also announced a typical live reveal coming on the 24th. But with how much we do see trailers, you know, a lot of people have been asking, are we actually going to get a trailer before that happens? DMG and Deej both confirmed that they'll show the trailer on April 24th during the live streams. That is certainly going to be pretty interesting. I think maybe we might get like a little teaser for the stream itself or something like that. But in terms of other teasers and general hype, Chris Barrett did tweet, if, as they say, the coming events cast their shadows ahead of time, then the past events cannot leave their reflections behind them, which is actually a line, I believe, from Rasputin in D1. Not quite sure exactly what it means, but, you know, it could be a hint towards something. And Big Show, of course, who's also been hyping this DLC, did tweet out May 8th, Destiny 2 Warmind, who is ready. And then we can see that he's actually wearing a different version of the Hunter icon on that hoodie to what we normally see. Some folks think this could be some kind of link to Anna Bray or something like that. We'll have to wait for more specific details, but of course Bungie said we'll go to new places to meet new heroes and battle new enemies, and the wording new enemies is a very interesting one right there. Of course Bungie know that we have kind of this issue with reskinned content in the game, so the fact that they have consciously referred to this as new enemies is pretty interesting. Moving on though, in this week at Bungie give us details about how power level is going to change a little bit going into Season 3. So one of the devs, Tomo, says, I'd like to let you know of an upcoming PvE difficulty tuning pass that should be hitting your consoles and PCs along with the beginning of Season 3. The main goals from this tuning pass are to provide a more challenging experience for players when they take on higher leveled activities. This should make power progression and acquisition more meaningful, reinforce and reward the energy type matching gameplay, and provide opportunities for our master PvEers to demonstrate their prowess at the highest levels. So how are we going to tackle this? We're going to change our outgoing player damage scaling versus higher leveled combatants to be steeper to make them more difficult, similar to Destiny. As a result, higher leveled combatants will take longer to kill than they currently do, but if you're at or above their level, you can still melt them. But they're also looking to extend the outgoing and incoming damage scaling from capping at 40 power level delta to a 50 power level delta. Currently in Destiny 2, our scaling only affects the difficulty of combatants up to 40 power levels. Increasing this to 50 power levels adds a little more room for players to show off how badass they really are. When combatants are 50 power levels or higher above from the player, they will be immune and display a question mark icon on their nameplate. OG Guardians probably remember the first time they stumbled across the hive in the depths of the Cosmodrome. We wanted to bring back that feeling of mystery and provide challenges for the player to come back to later in their journey. A change to combatant energy shields to fulfill the following. Matching energy element damage to shields is most effective, roughly 3 times damage plus the current shield detonation, followed by a non-matching energy, which is roughly 2 times damage, and kinetic damage won't have any bonus damage multiplier. To further incentivize the matching game, the 3 times multiplier for matching damage types is not affected by the damage scaling of higher leveled combatants until the combatants display the question mark nameplates. The previous change also allows us to bring back match game as an additional prestige nightfall modifier for extra points. When the modifier is enabled, all non-matching damage to energy shields is reduced by 10%, so make sure your fire team is coordinating appropriately. The current plan is for match game to launch along with the rest of these difficulty changes. We look forward to watching the community show off their PvE skills after these new settings go live. So pretty interesting stuff. Basically, they are increasing the influence that power level actually plays. A lot of people have complained about this. You know, you can be a relatively low level and not really notice that much difference in something like the raid. And when you are under leveled, there will be more instances where you run into enemies which are, you know, really strong or potentially completely immune. On top of this though, of course, they're increasing the amount of damage that energy weapons actually do to shields, which should make, you know, matching energy elements much more appealing in the game. It should be a more important decision. On top of this, match game will actually come back to the Nightfall as a modifier. I really hope they put that into, you know, some of the heroic strikes and stuff as well. Let me know your thoughts about that though. I think it's definitely positive stuff. Of course though, that is what's happening inside of Season 3. Before that, we are finally getting the Iron Iron Banner 6v6 coming next week. So of course Bungie did postpone this, but now they've actually updated it. It will be arriving at 10 AM PDT on April the 17th, so that will be on next week's reset. And they previously said that we would be getting all of the weapons that are currently in the rotation for Season 2 available, and I think they're actually purchasable as well. So that will certainly be pretty interesting, especially jumping into 6v6 will be pretty cool. But to clarify some bits of information about some of the content that's coming down the road, Derek Carroll did tweet he's excited that we finally get to say Season 3 marks the beginning of a new plan for how they deliver Crucible content for every player of Destiny 2. We'll be releasing all of the new Crucible maps being developed for Warmind into matchmaking, and inside of the blog they also confirmed that all of the Curse of Osiris maps will also be added to matchmaking, so you don't actually have to own the DLC to play those maps in quick play and things like that. There's a little bit of confusion. Some people thought that could possibly include console exclusives. DMG did confirm PlayStation exclusive maps will remain timed exclusive to that platform. And to that end, Bungie actually updated the post-launch content map for Destiny 2 to show, what is available to players. Of course, expansion content, destinations, campaign missions, rewards, and raid lairs, things like that, requires the actual DLC. But for seasons, they made the permanent change that Iron Banner, Faction Rally gear, all of that stuff will be available to everybody, as well, of course, as those new Crucible maps. And hopefully it'll be a really good thing for PvP population and matchmaking as well. But then there was the bigger stuff that's coming down the road in September. I covered most of this in my video yesterday, but Bungie did say the goals are to give you more control over how you configure your loadouts in Destiny 2 and to give more reasons to play the game over time. We also want to bring back those exciting moments when you acquire the perfect weapon. To make this happen, updates like weapon randomization, weapon slot changes, gear collections, and records will be delivered to all players. And of course, weapon randomization is a pretty big one. The exact nature of how they're going to do this isn't clear just yet, but they did confirm as well that mods will play into this, so there are actually going to be real proper weapon mods in the game going forward. Moving on though, we have updates and insights about some other stuff in the game. So people were talking about Legend of Acreus and whether it should be nerfed. DMG said it won't be getting a nerf with the next pass, seeing as how many exotics are getting buffed in 1.2, which is of course the May update. It will become a choice. Do I run Graviton Lance so I have an amazing energy weapon at the ready, or do I dedicate my equipped exotic to the power weapon slot, which doesn't have ammo on spawn? He does say, however, that they have noted Acreus is extremely hot in the current sandbox, but I think it is an interesting point. We're going to have to see, when we get those exotic changes down the road. Vigilance Wing is kind of going off right now. Bungie talk about time to kill changes with exotics in PvP, so I think it is a good point that there could be some weapons that are actually quite a bit more appealing than things like the Acreus once we get these exotic changes. Up next though, Bungie did list Nightfall challenge cards coming in May, and this led to a bit of confusion because of course we already had a Nightfall update, and my pal Flip actually asked DMG about this, and DMG did say they're expanding the Nightfall challenge card in the May update, and more details will be coming in a future this week at Bungie. So they're actually going to change the way the challenge card works, maybe make it a little bit more complicated, add more variety. We'll have to see exactly what they're going to do there, but of course more positive change is always good. Next though, John Wisniewski actually put out an interesting tweet that gives some insights into the player base and the feelings around reprised exotics. So he did say that this doesn't have any majorly significant meaning, but he said, how do you feel about reprised exotics? And he ran a poll on this. 27% of people said bring all of the exotics back, 22% said rather have new exotics, 51% said mostly new with some reprises. Personally, that's kind of how I feel as well. I feel like there are some exotics which are really, really cool and they could be brought forward in an interesting way. Equally though, I don't think they should feature as, kind of central pieces of gear in expansions and things like that. I totally want to see more new stuff which is actually awesome in the game personally. Moving on to the subject of Rumble and the change with the spawns, DMG did say there will still be some rough spawns on specific maps. Dead Cliffs in particular, Crucible team is working on more spawn changes for the future. This was a short-term mitigation that we could release quickly. So of course Bungie did change some of these spawns in Rumble and things like that, as well as reducing it to 6 players. You'll have to let me know your thoughts below if you've been playing Rumble, but Bungie are aware there are still a few issues with spawns. There was also another interesting post DMG responded to where someone said, can we stop focusing on PvP? and work on the PvE side of the game, DMG did say, with Destiny Update 1.1.4, we put more focus on PvE when applying sandbox changes. For many of the notes, you can see that weapons and archetypes had PvE specific changes, and this is something the team is looking to do moving forward, creating a powerful and exciting feel in PvE and ensuring PvP balance doesn't stomp the fun. So I mean, in terms of that sandbox stuff, the weapon changes in PvE were, somewhat sizable. I do, however, relate to that. Mostly I've tended to play PvE content, I feel like, in Destiny in the past. And right now we do have Nightfalls with a few more reasons to run through them. We still have the raids, we have the stuff we've always had in D2, but that's why the potential of new activities, something like Prison of Elders again on the PvE side, as well as a new raid lair and more changes to that, and then hopefully, vast loot improvements as well. I think the PvE loop of the game definitely needs it. There is also the additional fact that Bungie announced a summer event of some sort coming this year. We don't know what it's going to be. It could be something smaller like Crimson Days or something similar. You never know, maybe we'd see SRL come back at some point. But anyway, for now guys, that is going to summarize this update video. I hope you have found this stuff interesting or useful. If you have, a like is appreciated below. Let me know any thoughts that you have on this stuff. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more D2 content. For now though, I'll catch you guys very soon.